Our mouth has no function of breath. Our mouth has zero function of breath, and yet we use it. Okay. Now, make your exhale be very slow so that you can make it through the 6 seconds. Okay. If you are having trouble with this, just put your hand up and we can change it to 3 and 5.
Welcome to the Pursuit of Wealth, where the H is surrounded by abundance. Join us as we navigate and explore health and wellness topics from mindset to deep health to intentions and everything in between. We welcome you with open hearts, open minds, and with the hopeful intention that you'll become a tiny bit better than yesterday.
Welcome to the Pursuit of Wealth, where the H is surrounded by abundance. Today, we have an amazing guest and one of our podcast hosts. Her name is Tiffany O'Hearn. Now, here's a little about Tiffany. Tiffany is a mother, partner, daughter, and a friend. She's a nutrition, fitness, and advanced functional breathing coach. Today, she finds herself more drawn to helping others via the power of breath. Such an incredible thing that we'll start diving into. A whole body approach to wellness, and given the breath is so vital to our existence, it's a unique area of work.
When Tiffany is not helping people, she can be found with her daughter Lucy, who is the light of her life, or lost in the woods with her partner Kara, or making people laugh with her wit and humor. And I can attest to that as one of those people. Welcome, Tiffany. It's so good to finally be talking about you.
Likewise, I think. I'll let you know.
You're on the hot seat today.
I sure am. And I'm sitting. Actually, usually I stand, but today I'm sitting. So I literally am.
Well, I'm hoping by the end of this, you can give us some breathing exercises that we can take away with. But to kind of go back to the beginning of your story, Tiffany, what got you into all of this wellness, healthy life? I know from our recent podcast together, you are very much deep diving into this, and not only from the nutrition side, but also from caring about what you eat, giving the right food to your daughter, who is just started at a Montessori school as well, as well as making your own soap and other crafty ideas like that. So talk to us. How did that come into your life?
Yikes. Well, I would say, I got my first gym membership when I was 21 perhaps. I walked into the Gold's Gym in Marlborough, Massachusetts, and damn near pooped my pants because it seemed like a place that I shouldn't belong, right? And it was so, it was so hard for me to do, but I did it anyways. And so I would suggest that really probably started it. You know, I'd always been active. I always loved to play sports of any kind. As a matter of fact, my brother is 13 months younger than I, and that's all we did. You know, do you want to go play? Do you want to go play? And we would just be throwing a ball of some kind, to the point where my mom actually doesn't like how much we threw things, because I'd be like, hey, Marsh, can I get the jelly? And literally just throw the jelly at each other, right? Like so we were always playing sports. That's just what we were. And so after, high school and whatnot, I was just kind of like, well, now what? So I had joined a gym and I met a lot of great people at the gym. Then I started playing softball as an adult because I played it when I was a kid. And so that was really fun. Although that came up with a lot of bad habits that didn't necessarily speak to my good habits, because if you don't know, lots of alcohol usually follows softball or sports of that kind when you're an adult. So, yeah. And I partook in that, but, I would ride my bike to softball, just to get extra exercise and whatnot. And I was always kind of the person that was like, let me exercise first. And then if it fits in, I'll do it. I am a bit of an extroverted introvert. And that might come as a surprise to some people, but I'm very extroverted when you meet me and purely, surely in my life. But when I'm home. And I can be extremely introverted. I don't like to be, in giant social situations and things like that. So, but when I was 26, I had bought my first house when I was 26, and my father was helping me move into my home. And I'll never forget, he's on the stairs carrying up a dryer with my brother. And oh man, my arm just keeps going numb. My arm keeps going numb. And so that was the start, unbeknownst to him, to his stage 4 diagnosis of a glioblastoma in his brain. So 2 years of that, really just watching him be this most powerful man in every way to not. And watching him go through that, I thought to myself, now I don't think perhaps that my dad could have done anything different. Perhaps if he was a little bit more aware of his body and really advocated for himself, who knows? And he even said that, if something doesn't feel right, get it checked out, because he had symptoms. And we go back to this all the time. He had these symptoms. He ignored them for various reasons. So there he was, and so watching him be like, I can, do anything to, hey, I walked around the kitchen island today. It's like, oh my goodness, Dad, that's incredible. I'm so proud of you, So it was watching him and helping him and caring for him that I really thought to myself, what do we have to control? I cannot control a disease, right? But maybe I can. And so that's when I said, I'm going to take on this change in myself, because I don't want anyone to question if I could have done something differently. And I don't hold that against my father, not at all. I think he did what he did because he did what he knew with the information that he had. And that's all that there is, right? But for me, it really started this change. And those around me really started this change. The family, my dad's family, a lot of them would be like, they would actually refer to me as the temple. Like, no, Tiffany won't put that in her temple. Like that's what it was, because, that's really how I showed up. I cared, and I wanted to care for me. And then I started looking around. I remember I read Jillian Michaels' book back when she was, coming out. So it was probably around 2009, 2010. And she talked about a lot of the plastics and how hazardous they are to our health. And I went through the cabinets and I pulled it all out. Never using that again. Everything is glass. That's how I am today. We do not use plastic in this house. And so just taking these little steps, really starting to look at food. And I didn't just take it from a nutrition standpoint, because that is a very large piece of it, but it's not all of it, right? What Juli says all the time, it's what we absorb. So if you're using plastic, you're absorbing it. If you are using, whatever shampoos, conditioners, look at all the stuff in your cabinet. For me, I said, no way, I'm all done with that. And so I started really just taking a lot of that stuff out of my life. I started making my own, laundry detergent and dish detergent, because nothing really struck me as what I wanted, right? I didn't want 75 ingredients in the soap that I used to clean my clothes. And then you can imagine having my daughter, I really, really was ultra focused on that. Sure. I clean with vinegar, I clean with hydrogen peroxide. Those are the only two things in our house that we clean with. And then upon moving in with my partner now, I looked and I was like, let's explore some other ways to clean, because, unfortunately or fortunately, she was, more into the chemical business. I don't know how to say it, but, I really, took some time and we talked about some things. And so now here we are, again, it's not just about what we eat, but it's about what's all around us. The deodorant, we've changed the toothpaste, we've changed all of these things. I only use coconut oil in my hair. If you asked me before, I would have used 74 different products in my hair, because I like my curls just right. But, so really, again, going back to that, it was really my father's illness that was instrumental in the change. I had started the change earlier within myself, just, movement and things like that. And, once you start moving, I do believe it sort of changes how you do most other things, because you want to, I shouldn't say you, but for me, I wanted to feel as good as I did more often. Right. And how do you do that? And so, of course, being in a gym, that is something that is sort of top of mind, sure, nutrition and otherwise. Now, I don't agree with most of the nutrition choices now, right? But at that time, they were topical. They were what I needed to do, or what, how I chose to to live my life. So yeah, I really owe it all to my father at that point. And so now here I am, I'm a mother, and I know if anything should strike me, I at least want my daughter to know, or the people around me to know, that I did try. I did my best in all areas of my life.
And I think a lot of people have a similar, I don't want to say similar, but most people who make some kind of a major transformation in their health have had some kind of experience, either through their own journey or with someone else. So I can see that. Of all the changes you made, is there one that really kind of was the tipping point for you, or like the biggest piece of it? Or because we're always talking about small steps, right? Do one thing at a time. Don't
Mhm.
try to change everything at once. And when people listen to your story, it's like, oh my gosh, and I have to change all my products, and I change all my
Right,
plastic, and I
right.
did it. But
That's
the
how I
truth,
felt, certainly.
yeah. But the truth is, you didn't do that. That was over years, right?
Oh, yes. No, this has been a journey. I started when I was, 2021, but then, at 26, when my father got sick. I'm 38 now. So, I mean, you can see the evolution of it all.
Sure.
And I think truly, there was probably two tipping points for me. I think the first one that really helped was having my daughter, being pregnant, and really just feeling that life, and making little promises to that tiny little baby, that was, I will always show up for you, and I will always do my best. And there was one thing that I always promised her, and I still do, that I don't care what she is. She can be whatever she wants to be, but I want her to do it with kindness. I want her to do it with respect, and I want her to show up with integrity and love, right? Now, those are not things that you can teach, but they are things that can be modeled.
Yes.
And nurtured.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nurtured.
And so, for instance, now this may seem like a silly thing, but before I had her, I might take a shopping cart and put it wherever I wanted. I
Mhm.
had her. How do I show up with integrity and respect for others? You put the shopping cart back. And so I would do those little things, because she was watching. And how do I hold somebody else responsible for something that I'm not doing? So
Yeah.
I model. That's what I do, especially as a mom or anybody that knows me. I model it. It's innate in me, but now I have this little person watching me, and how do I want her to show up into this world? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is just by modeling. So that's what I do. So it was that, and then of course my divorce, and that was a different sort of tipping point for me. That was a more internal tipping point.
Okay.
Going through my divorce, where I said, what happened? How did it happen? And how do I not allow that person that showed up in that marriage, meaning myself, to show up again? And so that sent me down a more personal, internal journey. So those were sort of the two tipping points. And now, of course, they mirror each other quite well, and they run very parallel down these roads. But those were really the two tipping points for me to be where I am today.
Great.
I appreciate that. I want to go back to something you said. You mentioned playing ball with your younger brother. And that just reminds me of one of the last podcasts we did with Rosie. I'd rather have a ball, not a doll.
Yeah.
And so that resonates with you as well, I can tell. And another one, you mentioned that your most amazing dad, how strong he was, how much of a role model he was. And then once he got that debilitating disease, really striking him down to become at a very vulnerable place. And I can see a lot of likenesses with my father as well, and how much of breath is so needed with something like coronavirus. 3 or 4 weeks ago, he was in Egypt. That was his last abroad destination. He was able to ride camels. He was going to the pyramids. And then a few weeks later, when he was seeing his kids back in the United States, all of a sudden he got coronavirus, even after he got his vaccine. And though he was complaining, he was still strengthened. And now he's in the ICU. And just having a breath of air is is gold. It's a feeling of strength. And so when he's able to say, much like you said, your father was able to walk around the kitchen or the island, if my father says my breath is up to 90% or 85%, wow, we have to congratulate that as well. And this kind of leads to your breath work. Um, I know you've worked at a gym and you've also had a few other, but what was it about breath that really sold you after all of your life changes and rebalancing? What was it about the breath?
Sure. Well, first of all, just a little anecdote for you. When I was about 7 or 8, and my mom, I don't know if she ever even saved it, but she often talks about it. So there was one year on my Christmas list, and I remember doing it. My Christmas list read tennis ball, volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball, football. It was a list of just balls. And sometimes she'll say it and I get a little embarrassed and I don't know why, but that was me. Like I literally wrote a list of just balls. And you can have as much fun as that as you will, but I don't like balls anymore of that kind. So here we are. So going back to the breath work, if I had known this, it really could have really helped my father in such a way, because our breath is fundamental to our existence, right? Now we can talk about food, we can talk about water, but let's talk about your breath, because you can go a week without food, if not more, a couple days without water, but you can't go more than a few minutes without your breath, right? In most individuals, a minute and a half, right? Without breath, and that's it. So breath is life. Through the journey, as I was speaking about, post-divorce and things like that, and really coming to terms with my life, and not in a debilitating way where I said I really have a sort of traumatic background, or I have a trauma-ridden past. It wasn't something that was a negative, it was a positive for me to understand. Okay, this is why I react in these certain ways at these certain times, because it's a response to trauma. Well, what do I have outside of recognition, right? Because when we are dysregulated, and I use that word quite a bit, right? When we are dysregulated, what do we have on us? When I'm dysregulated, the last thing I want to hear in my own head is, oh, this is why you're reacting that way, right? No, that's not what I want to hear. But do I have a tool? Do I have something that can bring me back to myself? That is the breath, right? And, there's lots of breath practices out there. But what breath practice do you actually have to use day in and day out? And so through my journey, I started with Wim Hof. I had saw this Vice episode on Wim Hof. Actually, this gentleman that he coached the CrossFit gym, and he told me about it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to try this. But I was in my first trimester, so I could not try it, right? You do not want to take on breathing exercises in your first trimester at all. So I sort of just put it on the back burner. And then a couple of years later, again, post my divorce, I decided, you know what, why do I keep pushing things off? Like, what's the point? What's the point? So I'm very much now where I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. No time like the present. So I started, immersing myself into the Wim Hof culture, taking cold showers and stuff, and doing the breathing. And it occurred to me when I was doing the breathing that the mouth didn't feel as good. And I kind of always was going into the nose. So I sort of reached out to the Wim Hof, there's Facebook groups and things like that. And, someone responded and said, well, read Patrick McEwen's book, The Oxygen Advantage. And I was like, okay. So I bought the book and I read the book in lightning speed. And then I read it again. And I was so fired up. And I kept saying to Kara, no, other people need to know this. This is life changing. And it can help everyone. Now, we talk about this nutrition world and mindset world, right? Yes, it can help everybody, but that doesn't mean everybody wants to be helped. And so I always use that as a little, caveat there, right? Not everyone wants to be helped, and that's okay. So I Googled him, Patrick McEwen, and I found that you could be an instructor. And I peed a little. And I might have peed a lot, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so I needed to register for this. And my wonderful partner, because of course I'm like, no, I need to do this and it costs money. And I said, no, I need to do this. I need to do this. And I am a great salesperson. And she is always wanting to support me. So between the two, I joined the course and I took it very quickly. And then I was like, that's not enough for me. There's way more to learn. So I researched and, oh, wow, an advanced instructor course. Okay, that's what I need. And so then I took that. Now, here I am in September, and this has really been my goal because I couldn't give, and I have worked with people over the course, but I couldn't give what I wanted to this until my daughter was in school. So, my daughter, she's 5. She's never been to any type of school scenario. I spent a lot of time researching and finding her the right school for her because I've always been the parent that thinks outside of the box, and I've never put my child in a box, ever. And so now she's at a lovely, beautiful, I'm so grateful Montessori school. And now comes my redefining time for myself. And I'm just moving forward with the breathing, right? Because if I didn't, I'd be dead. But the functional breathing that I want to teach. And right now I'm more focused, we kind of talk about, where maybe a doctor or maybe in school where you want to choose something. But I always say, give it time because it will choose you. Right? Whatever it may be. I used to have this joke that I would say, about, in my old stand-up days where, people will say, you'll find the right person when you're not looking. Right? And it was always like, well, how do I not look? Are you there? Are you there? Like you're just in the supermarket. You're like, oh, there he is, or there she is, like, how do you not find something when you're not looking? But it is so true. It will come to you. Right. And we've talked about this with the podcast. Well, how do we want this podcast to be? And I'm like, well, it will show us. You start and trajectory will change based on everything around it. Right. In a very intentional sort of way. So how do I want to show up for this breath? And then it just came to me. And so right now, I'm developing a workshop and whatnot to help people in a mind. I don't even want to use a mindset way, but in a more holistic way, when we talk about anxiety, when we talk about, how do we show up in this world, right? And how do we help ourselves, right? It's a great matter of self-care. It's a great matter of fundamentally everything around us. I mean, when we talk about having conversations with others, bring it back to your breath. Bring it back to your breath. Then you can show up that represents you. Because how often have we had conversations that don't represent us? Because we're already either dysregulated or animated to some degree, or trying to, our ego is going to show up for us instead of who we are, right? Because they are kind of two very different things.
They are. And how we show up in the world has, I've said before, has a profound effect on the people around us.
Yeah, for sure. And, this is something that I learned, deep on, I through my journey, again, post-divorce, I spent a lot of time with this woman who is a medium, but she's also just a lovely person to talk to. And she would say something, and I talked about this before, about forgiveness, right? You're not forgiving somebody for them, you're forgiving them for you. Mm-hmm. And so I started really doing all this work for me, and it seemed selfish. How should I, right? We talk about self-care as being selfish, but no, these are the self-care methods that I need, that I want to show up for me. I don't want to engage in a conversation where I might say something I don't mean. I don't want to show up for a conversation where I might not be at my best. I bring it back to the breath, which brings it back to me. And if I can show people and guide people towards that for themselves, now there's about 400 other benefits that they'll receive. I mean, truly, 400 may be a stretch. It's probably like 398.5, but It's close to it. And so just bringing it back to your breath, I think is the most fundamental piece to it, to show up as you are, to not walk around where your outsides do not reflect your insides. Bring it back to the breath. And this is not, some hooky dooky. No, it's actually very simple. And it can ground you in such a fundamental way that can change your life. And then we can talk about how it helps with disease. Then we can talk about how it helps with pain. Then we can talk about how it helps with COVID. Then we can talk about how it helps with exercise and fatigue. Then we can talk about heart rate variability. Then we can talk about general resilience. And we go on and on.
Sleep, healing.
Oh, sleep. I didn't even touch on sleep. Forgive me for not touching on sleep. But that also can determine how we show up in this world. Can it not? I mean, if you look at, your sleep goes right into your emotional state, goes into your breathing, and round it goes. But it can be a positive. With good sleep, because of good breath, you have a good emotional mind. You have a good emotional resilience. And that can change everything for you in a day.
I'm sold.
Great.
One of the things that I really love about speaking with you, and of course I'm biased because we've been doing this, speaking together now pretty regularly for a year. But one of the things I really love is the way that you not only bring that depth to your practice, and it's obvious that you're so passionate about it that seriously I'm fired up about it with you and for you, but also your humor. And I wonder, how do you put those two things together? I know part of it is just who you are, but I just love your sense of humor, and I think it's
Thank
a
you.
benefit to other people because laughter is also medicine.
I agree. And humor has been a part of my life. I remember one of my uncles would tell me often that I was the funniest child. That I was just the funniest child. I know as a child, I used to wear ruffled underwear for whatever reason. My mom was kind of mean to me, but I'm just kidding, Mom. And so I would just show people my underwear, like just to be funny, so I would do these little things just to share humor. And I don't think it was to be something, because that's not who I am. It's how I show up. And if I can help somebody else just have that moment of laughter in that moment when somebody else needs it, and I think that I have a deep intuition. I kind of always have. And I can get away with saying most things to people that other people would probably be like, I can't believe you just said that. But it's just about reading people. And that's something that I'm very good at. But, especially with my meme, who I named my daughter after her, just to show you how much I have adored this woman my entire life. But her and I, people would say, you guys can't even be together, because I would just do something and then my meme would take it. She was very much that same humor edge. But humor has just always been a part of my life. And not like in a silly way. I don't know. I'm very good at it, and I know that. I mean, if you asked me when I was a kid what I wanted to be, it was on Saturday Night Live. That's what I wanted to be, on Saturday Night Live or on the radio. Those were what I would have told you. And while I'm neither of those, I am on a podcast, so that satisfies that. But I also did some stand up when my father was sick and things like that, because it just helps. Because you're right, humor is truly the best medicine. And if I can provide anybody with a little bit of laughter in a serious world, then that's okay with me. That's where I'm the most comfortable. And like I said, it's not necessarily like a clown way, although I can be that too, but that's how I choose to show up, with kindness and a little bit of humor.
That's great. Well, and you can't
Love
be stressed and upset and laugh at the same time.
No.
And laughter forces you to breathe. So
That's right. There's even laughing yoga that's gaining popularity around the world.
Really?
Yes, there is. You intentionally laugh. Yeah, it began in India, I believe, and now it's hitting the waves in Canada, Europe, and I believe the United States.
I know someone who teaches it. I actually worked with him on the breathing side of that. He is a wonderful human being that might be a wonderful guest for us, but he is also a mime, which is just fascinating. And his body moves in the most beautiful way. But I'm actually going to write that down.
Write
because
that
now-
down. Unfortunately, we can't have a mime on the podcast. The audio wouldn't be very interesting.
No, but
only
just
for video.
but even like the laughing yoga, and like he starts laughing and it just made me laugh because he's just laughing, and it's just an amazing thing. But certainly when you can share humor, it's very important to me and it's fundamental to my life. And yeah, if you're around me, you're gonna laugh, I hope.
All right. Well, midpoint quiz time. You mentioned something about plastic when you gave it up. So for the audience, you can leave a comment down below. How much plastic do you think we ingest per month?
Okay, here's a public service announcement. Do not microwave your food in plastic. Hear me now. I saw somebody do it recently, and it troubles me to my core. Do not do it. You are ingesting everything in a heated manner. You're heating up this plastic that is leaching into your food, and then you are absorbing. Plastic to me, no bueno. It is no good. I do have some plastic containers, I won't lie. However, I do not put them in the dishwasher because that is an also very giant no-no. Do not put plastic into the dishwasher. I hand wash all the plastic. I actually have the Pyrex glass lids, like the Pyrex bowls, but I hand wash all the plastic. I never put the plastic in the dishwasher. If I have hot food, I wait until it's not hot anymore before I put the plastic. In a world where I have a little bit more resources, I will get now they have the cork covers, and that's what I will be transitioning to. But until then, I'm very mindful of plastic in all ways because it does show up in our bodies and it shows up into our food, and it's what we absorb.
All right. So answers. If you have an answer for our audience, answers down below. How much plastic do we consume in a year?
Everything is plastic. Sorry.
Julie, start with you. How much do you think?
I have no idea. I don't use a lot of plastic. I use more than I probably should, but I don't
On
know.
average, the average
Pounds,
person.
5 pounds.
I hope
Way
not.
too
Oh my
much.
goodness.
I hope not.
And I will just say, let me just back up for 1 second. So this is like when I start working with somebody on the breath, or I start talking about the breath, and they start breathing out of their nose and they go, or their mouth, right? It becomes this kind of all or nothing. And that is very much not what we are. So if you are looking at your house and you see a lot of plastic, just get rid of one piece, right? You don't have to change everything all at once. Just one piece of your plastic that you use. Or you know what, I'm just not going to use plastic in the microwave anymore. You've done a world for yourself. You've done a world of good just by making that one simple little choice. So we talk about this as sort of an all or nothing, and it's very much not. It's just about doing it 1% at a time.
Perfect. Always 1% better every day.
So, are you going to give us an answer?
Oh, right. Okay, so it's about a credit card per week that the average person injects. So calculate that by a year, 52 weeks. That gives you the average.
That's a lot. Wow.
That's a lot. Yeah.
And you cannot swipe that credit card.
No.
Can't swipe it in your ass.
No Venmo. No Venmo on that credit card.
If only. No return either.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So Tiffany, eating, exercise, and what are your ingredients to a healthy life?
Okay. My ingredients to a healthy life are a dash of sugar. Just kidding, no sugar. No, let me start over. So my ingredients for life are, and I don't necessarily know if I can rate them per se, but my ingredients for life is kindness, because I think that that trumps all. And let me just define for you, because I feel like sometimes it gets confused. Being nice is not the same as being kind. Being nice is when you do something for something, right? I'm going to, if we look at Facebook, right? To the man that bought me the coffee, I went ahead and bought you yours. That is nice. That is not kind. If you were being kind, you would not tell everyone.
Mm.
Being nice is you do something for somebody else because of something, or because you want something in return. It doesn't have to be a gift. It could just be a thank you, right? Like, aren't you going to say thank you? No, that's nice. Kindness is when you do something for somebody else for no return. That is kindness. That is when my daughter and I go for a walk and she wants to pick up trash. We pick up the trash and we throw it in our trash barrel. Nobody needs to see or know that we do it, but we know it. That's kindness. Kindness is when you do something without something in return. So if we could all be a little bit more kind, show up for other people in a way that is just, and it's not, there used to be this Friends episode where I used to love Friends when it was out, but where Phoebe says, there is no good deed. There's no selfless good deed, right? Because no matter what we do, we are going to feel good about it, right? So she was trying to search and find something that was selfless, that was a good deed, that was selfless, that didn't make her feel good, which I love that this was even a topic. So she says, you know what? I got stung by a bee and I did it so all his other bee friends would be like, oh, that bee's so tough. And then the other character said, well, the bee died. And she said, oh no. And so she was just devastated. So she was trying to show up. So no, there is no selfless sort of good deed, right? But you can do it because it does make you feel good. But it's not just you. We exist in the universe. And so if you would do it for the universe, that's okay. That's still that kindness piece.
That energy exchange happens outside of us.
Absolutely.
And so even when we feel good about something that we've done with no expectation of return, we still exude that positive energy and other people take it in.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So even doing it to feel good in one sense is kind and not quite selfless, but somewhat selfless, because we are also benefiting other people.
Right.
When we feel better.
Right.
And
that's okay. That's that trickle down effect, right?
Yep.
And so that's why I speak so highly about kindness, because I think it is, the bridge to change in the world. But what do we say? Just be the change you want to see in the world. So that's what I'll do. But from there, I think the next recipe is nutrition. Let me back that up. The breath, of course. And then I think nutrition. And then I think fitness. And when I talk about these, there's sort of subcategories too, of course, sleep and things like that. But, I think that, we live in a world where there's a lot of everything. And we feel as though we should get it. Have you ever heard somebody say, well, I don't do anything else, so this is what I could have, because I don't drink, or I don't do drugs, or I don't smoke. So it's okay for me to have whatever indulgence that I'm going to have. My answer to you is no, it's not, because we don't get to choose. Mm-hmm. We don't get to choose what happens to our health. Well, let me back that up. We do get to choose. But
by our choices.
Exactly. But we don't get to say what is good for us in our whole body sense like that, yeah. Right? Like I get to have this because I don't do anything else. Like no one's keeping score like that.
Your body certainly isn't.
Right. But your health, your overall health. So I think that they all are sort of very much intertwined, kindness and breath sort of being at the top, and then, sort of the nutrition, the sleep, and fitness of some kind. And again, fitness doesn't have to be pumping the iron or anything. Fitness is just about moving your body.
Yeah.
And nature Nature. Oh gosh, nature. We need to be out in nature. It is the most grounding and healing things. What you can perceive and witness. There was somebody that I heard, it might have been on a Tim Ferriss podcast, and forgive me, but his recipe was to, if you want to start really perceiving nature or being aware of nature in a different way, take on for like 2-3 weeks or a month, taking 3 pictures of flowers a day. Because you will start, again, it goes back to that reticular activating system, right? You will start noticing flowers and they are there. Nature is the utmost of beauty, in my opinion. Me and my daughter, we went to, I took her to this park on Saturday. I wanted to spend some time with her. So we went to this park. We spent 3 hours at this park. Now, I can guess that most 5-year-olds would not have wanted to spend 3 hours at the park like we did. We played at the playground, and then we drove around, and there was a flower garden. And we walked through the flower garden. And she stopped at every single flower to touch it, to feel it, to smell it, and to tell me, Mama, nature is so beautiful. Because she's aware of it. Because I've helped guide her towards that. I've modeled that for her. And now she just sees it. It is so calming. We spent then we went around to the duck pond, and I kid you not, she fed 2 Canadian geese. If you know anything about them, they are not kind critters.
Right.
Out of her hand.
Wow.
Oh,
Out of her hand, she fed these little ducks. The last time we went to, she had one of the mallard ducks eating right out of her hand. I've never seen anything like it. She was sitting on a rock. I have a picture of her, and she was sitting there for about 5 minutes. And there were like these giant types of koi fish into this pond. And she was sitting on this rock, and I just let her be. And then she looked at me, and I said, honey, you look to really be enjoying your time there. She said, Mama, this is so peaceful. And there's all these fish in this pond. So I'm telling you about a 5-year-old, but any of us can have it. And the way to really appreciate nature is to be in it, not with your cell phones. You can do it with other people. Like I said,
Not with your headphones.
Right. Yeah. No. You need to see it. You need to feel it. You need to smell it. I used to ride a road bike. I don't have one anymore, but I will get one again. And just being the smells is what really got me when riding my road bike. Smells of nature, the smells of people's homes, just the smells alone, right? All of our senses can be immersed if we have them. And if not, you have others in nature. And to me, it's just the most profound thing. Dirt is not dirty. They're two bad words for each other that don't mean the same thing. Put your hands in the dirt. Feel the dirt. Feel the earth around you. Hug a tree. That seems silly, but I've literally hugged a tree. I've seen my daughter hug a tree. It is a beautiful and touching thing just to stare or take in a tree.
The sounds, sitting in nature and listening to things rustling under the leaves, the wind.
Yep.
Water.
And if you've never done it, just try it. Find a field. Find a space where it's just you, because this is another sort of tool of self-care. Find a place for just you and give yourself, if you think 10 minutes is too long, just do it for 5. And just sit there unencumbered and notice. That's it. Just notice.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think we all, that's a lesson for all of us. Even if you live in a large city where you're not near the mountains or nature of any kind, there's so many concrete cities. It's kind of becoming lost in certain places around the world where connecting and reconnecting with nature, the mountains, and feeling that unique energy in being grounded. Even just the simple act of taking off our shoes, getting off the plastic soles, and to feel the grounding of our energy, something so powerful to it. Well, I hope before we finish up today, if you're able to walk us through 1 or 2 breath exercises that we can walk away with.
I can help you with that. So one of them that I think is extremely profound is just many small breath holds. Okay. And this can help regulate you in any scenario. This can help regulate you if you are feeling the constriction of a panic attack, an asthma attack, or if you simply just need to calm your breath down. And so the many small breath holds, excuse me. And so for everything that we do in breathing, we do it with our nose, because I'm going to give you a little tip here. Our mouth has no function of breath. Our mouth has zero function of breath, and yet we use it. Okay? So I'll just say that again. Our mouth has no function of breath. Our nose is what does the breathing for us. For, I don't know, 32 different reasons. Our nose is the vessel with which we should breathe. So whenever we're doing any type of breathing exercise, we're always going to do it through our nose. So the many small breath hold exercise is simply a normal breath in, a normal breath out. Now I use we talk about in the oxygen vent, just kind of pinching your nose. You don't actually have to do that. However, it's sort of that signal to the brain, and it might help you when you're first starting off with some of these little breath holds. And so that's all that this is. Normal breath in, a normal breath out. Pinch for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose. And now just breathe normally. See, this is nothing that's going to tax your nose. It's nothing that's going to task your system. But you can also use this as a warm-up prior to exercise or a cool down after exercise. And so we'll do it again. Ready? A normal breath in, a normal breath out. Pinch the nose. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in through your nose. Do you feel some saliva building up in your mouth?
Yeah.
What we're doing is we are activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's why breath is also fundamental, because with the breath, we can stress the fight or flight appropriately and instigate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest. Let's do it one more time.
Okay.
Normal breath in, normal breath out. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So when we're breathing through our nose and we're doing these small breath holds, it actually is lowering our blood pressure, right? It should be. I can't say for certain. Our heart rate, things are happening within us. You do that for a couple minutes. How do you feel? Because it doesn't matter what I say. Tell me how you feel.
I feel good.
Same with me. I think after doing it for 2 minutes, I would feel a lot more of the benefits that come along with mindful breathing.
Absolutely. And just one of the ways that you can tell that is when your mouth fills with saliva, because that right there tells you that you've activated your parasympathetic nervous system. So breathing is a way to harness your nervous system in its entirety, to help the vagus nerve, right, which is from our mind to our gut, be a little bit more intertwined and connected. So that is just one of the exercises. Now, again, you can do that for 2 minutes. You can do that for 5 minutes. Another one, there's lots of movement ones, but since we're all sitting,
I'm standing.
Oh, you're standing? Sometimes we can't tell, Julie. I'm sorry. Another one that we can do is just cadence breathing. And so you can spend a minute doing this. So I'm just going to get my timer and I'm going to walk you guys through this. Okay. Okay. Now make your exhale be very slow so that you can make it through the 6 seconds. Okay. If you are having trouble with this, just put your hand up and we can change it to 3 and 5, right? Because we don't have to go all in. It's no problem. We're just going to work at it. You can do that too. Really try to get in that state for yourself. Ready?
Yep.
2, 3, 4, out. 5, 4, 3, 2, in, 2, 3, 4, out. 5, 4, 3, 2, in, 2, 3, 4, out. 5, 4, 3, 2, in, 2, 3, 4, out. 4, 3, 2, 1. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop. Tell me your experience.
I feel a little tingly.
It's nice. It was calm, very calming. I do breath work quite a bit, so this immediately is a calming effect, especially during heightened stress states.
Absolutely.
Maybe you're at the bank, maybe you're at the DMV, maybe you're at your lawyer's office or your divorce office.
Who knows? I
Having
mean, the
this breath.
applications, the applications are truly amazing. So all that is cadence breathing. So that's 6 breaths per minute, if you think about it. I'm guessing that most of us are up towards 20 breaths per minute. We're just over breathing.
I'm a very slow breather, and I find it really interesting when I do a yoga class and they're guiding the breath. It's always too fast for me. Always.
That's
And
interesting.
I feel like if I follow the breath, I'm going to hyperventilate. So I don't follow the breath a lot of the time, because I am just a slower breather. But I have a resting pulse of like 50 or 52. So
that's pretty low. My
yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. But it makes it, what I love about this is that these are portable exercises that nobody has to even know you're doing.
No. Nope.
If you're at McDonald's.
Anywhere, anytime. Yeah. In a
Yeah,
traffic
absolutely.
jam.
When you're having, when your kids are, when you're reacting poorly to your kids, because we all know that happens, or your spouse or your partner or whoever it may be. And this is why I think this is so fundamental. Also just for ourselves, because let's get back to our bodies. Yes, this is a form of meditation. Some might not be on board with that, but it is a form of meditation because you're focusing on your breath.
Well, Tiffany, this was wonderful. Thank you so much to get to know a little more about you, your journey, what your work is. Where can people find you?
They can find me at 1-800. No, I'm just kidding. It's actually 1-900, but I don't even know if they have those anymore. So I can be found. I can be found on Facebook, of course, Tiffany O'Hearn. I can be found on Instagram at Wish I Had a Cooler Name, because when I was trying to define a handle for myself, the only thing I could think of was, man, I wish I had a cooler name. And thus came the tag. I can be found pretty much those only places. Additionally, I have Pursuing Alchemy, which is the name that, I've chosen for my business. And soon you will see some advertising, although it depends on when this is released. But my workshop is titled Pursuing a Conscious Mind. And that's just more about, awareness within ourselves. And otherwise, I can be found in Agawam, Massachusetts. Not telling you my address. You're going to have to find me.
Or here on The Pursuit of Wealth.
Of course. Also, The Pursuit of Wealth. Forgive me. The Pursuit of Wealth. That's where I'll be.
And this is The Pursuit of Us. Thank you so much for coming on, Tiffany. Juli, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I just feel really proud and privileged to be able to have this podcast with two amazing people.
I also feel that way.
Great.
Likewise.
Well, we hope that some of this has left you questioning a few of your practices and finding some helpful tools to use, and that you're leaving us today 1% better than you.